Okay, for the shelf part 3, I'm going to go ahead and start putting in some of my details. And really the details for what we're going to put in right now are really just the thicknesses of the boards that you'll be using, and then the hidden lines to show where those are at, because this detail for your actual shelf design will come later. So the only thing that we really need to do in this part 3 now is put in the details here, and then we'll pause and give you time to get caught up, and then we'll go in and put our basic dimensions. Remember, our basic dimensions are the length, the thickness, and the depth up here. And on the front there are going to be 2 lengths because the inside dimensions are 16. That's how long you will cut your boards. And then this overall length down here is the inside dimension plus the thickness of your sides. And I'll show that as we go along. Okay? I'll move this drawing. And the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to take my scale, and again I'm going to use, and I'm trying to get it up here so you can see it, I'm going to use this, hopefully it will focus in, I'm going to use this 1/2 inch scale, and I'm going to use the fractional part down here because this is the fractions. There's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, which is a whole inch. The thickness of our boards are 3/4, so I'm going to use 1, 2, 3/4, so I'll be laying out to that mark right there. So what I'm going to do from this outside edge, I'm going to make a mark at 3/4 on the 1/2 inch scale. I'm going to come in from this side and I'm going to make a mark at 3/4 on the 1/2 inch scale. And if you remember from the first example, this 3/4 of an inch shows in the front view, and you'll see that in the top. So we're just going to make, we've laid it out the dimension once. We're going to continue the lines all the way up. That's a pretty easy layout. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this mark at my 3/4, and then I'm going to do it through my top view. Then I'm going to slide over, and I'm going to do the same thing here, 3/4, and in the top view. So then I have those basic dimensions at the actual thickness of the board shown here, here, and here. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to pick a random size, because when you build your shelf, the location of your shelf board here, if you're looking at this from the front view, this might change. So I'm just going to pick a random dimension. We're not going to worry about dimensioning this now. You can do that later, just like you did the location of the cartridge hole on your CO2 card. That will change depending on how you want your shelf built. So what I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to measure up. And you can do this exactly like mine if you like, and then you can change that later. This is an easy one to change. I'm going to find my scale again. Okay, 1/2 inch scale. I'm just going to come up. I'm going to come up exactly 5 inches to the top of my shelf. So I'm going to come up 5. So if I go back to my original drawing, I've come up to this line 5 inches, and then the thickness of the board is 3/4. So I have to come back down 3/4 an inch to show that thickness. So I'll come back to that fractional scale again, down to 3/4, and then I am going to draw that line in. That's just going to represent the front of my shelf, and I'm going to have some sample shelves out so you guys can look at those. Now, I have just drawn, if you look at my example, I've drawn this shelf board in here, and if I come over to the right side view, those hidden lines where my shelf cuts all the way through, so I can bring this up and just show those hidden lines cut through all the way through the right side view, and up here all the way through the right side view, like that. So gone to this point. Now if I look at this from the right side view, if I turn my shelf to the side, this backer board sits all the way to the back edge. So I'm going to have to come here 3/4 in, and also up here, I have to move it down so you can see it, up here 3/4 in to show where this board sits back in, because remember this is looking straight down from the top view of your shelf. So with those, all I need to do is come up to the top, measure 3/4 down, make a mark, and over to the right side view here, come in and 3/4. Remember that the trick here is just getting used to using that 1/2 inch scale. You are just drawing this exactly the half the size that it will be when you build it. So you got to remember that all of our original dimensions, we're just cutting them exactly in half here. So there is my backer board from the top view, and this is going to be my backer board. It'll come even with this one from the top view, like that. So really, that's all there is to part number 3 on this shelf drawing, because as you see, I basically have the front view of my shelf, the top view of my shelf, and the right side view before we cut any dimensions in it. And you can kind of look around the room at the sample shelves. You'll have designs, and we'll worry about those patterns later. That'll come as a later step. But you can see that this line right here will actually go away. So I'm going to erase that, because that top line actually drops down. That's where my shelf will be, and you can see that on the sample shelves as we go around. So I'm going to take my eraser, and I'm just going to erase this. I'll lose this line so it looks similar to the other examples that you can see hanging around the room. As a matter of fact, this one, when I get done with it, I'll hang it in the front of the room so you can see it as well. Okay, as we know, this paper isn't the greatest paper in the world. Just try to keep it as clean as you can. So there is part 3 of the shelf drawing completed, which is basically border title block, part 1, lay out those basic dimensions and box out the front, top, right side view in ½ inch equals 1 inch scale. Just remember to always use that part of your scale. By the way, don't write that on your drawing. That's just to show you that you're using that ½ inch scale. And then we laid out the thickness of the boards, the hidden views, where things are going to lay out. And I think you guys can all visualize the way this is going to lay out. So I'm going to stop it now, give you a chance to get caught up. We can kind of pause it here for a while and let you guys just hit the pause button and let you guys kind of get caught up. And then I'm going to go back in and going to put in my basic dimensions of what the actual shelf drawing will be. So I'll put in these 3/4 of an inch dimensions here, because that's the thickness, the height, the width, and then these basic lengths. And then that's all. The other detail, the location for the center, for the peg holes, and those kind of things, we'll put in later, so don't worry about that. Okay? So that's the end of part 3.